Game day brings its ups and downs. Celebration and disappointment. Anxiety and relief. Friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree on great food. Appetizers, entrees, drinks, party platters, or even the taste of sweet victory. There's something for every season at Eat With Us restaurants.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Thank you so much for joining us here on this Tuesday, a day a little more mild, and you probably noticed the fog sticking around a good chunk of the day. It's a sign that moisture is in place. We do have, believe it or not, dense fog advisories in effect again for tomorrow. One of the many things that we're tracking here in the Room to Room Weather Center over the course of this broadcast. So let's get rolling. And again, first thing we're looking at here, again, the fact that warm temperatures continue, kind of setting the stage for more unstable air, more likelihood to eventually see not just rainfall, but some strong to severe thunderstorms as we head through the extended forecast. Now, I think those are possible as we look toward your Friday in particular. Timing has started to align more, especially late Friday through the afternoon and into the evening. All of our projections starting to come into alignment. That's one of the things where we start to see confidence grow substantially. We'll talk more about that here in a couple of minutes. We're also talking Ole Miss football with our Will Kohlmeyer. Again, the Rebels taking off here from the Tupelo area earlier on today on their way out to Arizona for the big playoff matchup. We do have a question and answer talk session with Will about that coming up here in a couple of minutes. Big headline, though, obviously, is this severe weather threat. Does involve almost all locations, similar spots to where we had it yesterday, now extending a little farther deep south toward the south and west. But if you're in the yellow zone here, and expect many of you are, what should we be expecting? I think there's a potential we could end up seeing damaging winds, perhaps isolated tornadoes, and maybe some flash flooding. Those, I think, are the main threats. We're timing those out for Friday. We will look at where our Futurecast model has those placed in its high resolution form here in a couple of minutes. This evening, though, still kind of ahead of that. We have another front that'll arrive even before Friday, and that is in some ways one of the question marks we have related to this on how that ends up, or at least how much moisture that ends up shoving southward. As you can see here, looking at the first 12, we're 64 degrees at 6 p.m. there. We're 57 by 9, 54 by midnight or so. Again, a very limited chance for maybe some drizzle, very, very light amounts of precipitation as the front moves into the area. That does try on those north winds to squash a little bit of that moisture slightly farther to the south and slow the return of stickiness. That is one of the ingredients that figures in to our storm chances. Outside in Tupelo at this instant, we're 66. That feels like temperature about 66. And look at that dew point coming in at 57. A sign there that we do continue to have a little more moisture than what we had yesterday. Not quite enough. If we were talking for severe weather, middle to upper 60s is where we kind of say baseline cutoff for that. So we're still about 8 to 10 degrees away from that as far as moisture return. And this initial front will slow that return somewhat. Appreciate Mitchell Cunningham Bowling for sponsoring our Mississippi Live Skycam there in the Tupelo area. Still kind of a murky look there in Starkville, 64 degrees at this instant. It feels like 64. That dew point a little bit higher at that reporting station. That one sometimes is a little finicky. And outside at this instant in the Oxford area, 57, that measure of moisture, that dew point, and 66 is that temperature as the sun setting there out in the sky back toward the west at this point in time. Our wind's still south ahead of this. Mama Justice Doppler radar showing our front kind of moving toward the area. I say our front, that's our first front. This one is not a very impressive front if we're honest here. Kind of behind it, the air is a little bit drier, but it's not a huge, impressive batch of colder air. So while it technically counts as a cold front, more than anything, it's the drier air nudging through. Does it do a great job of scraping that moisture to the coast? Probably not. And that's part of the reason why I think we'll still have a meaningful amount of moisture around that eventually will help thunderstorm chances to become more likely. Wider shot shows one of the culprits, both the culprits, that will kind of figure into our chances for rainfall a little later on into this week. This one back here toward the west coast, as that kind of lifts into and through the area, it's going to be associated with strong winds aloft, and that will start bringing us a better chance for not just thunderstorms, but potentially severe thunderstorms as we head into the latter part of this week here. But as you'll note, looking here over the course of the next few hours, that initial front here kind of nudging through 9-10 o'clock tonight. You can see the possibility maybe a few isolated showers out there. As you saw on Mississippi Live Weather Radar a moment ago, there's really not much out there at this point here, and we expect most of us probably stay fairly dry into tonight. As high pressure kind of settles in from the north and west, it does kind of try to shove this farther south, right? How far south can it really, penetrate? Because you could see between now and 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, that's not a huge difference. A sign that this is slowing down, hitting more and more dry air that then will, as it tries to push through, be that one of those limiting factors. How much of that dry air really gets in here? I mean, you can even notice, looking here at our hour-by-hour forecast, those north winds that we'll have early in the day, they start shifting northeast and east, and then eventually more of a southerly component as we head late into the day. That southerly component is a sign of that returning moisture. It's a sign of the weakening front, and it's a sign that those thunderstorm chances will get a bit greater. Because of that, if we don't really squeeze the moisture too far south, then it can get back up here pretty effectively. One of the factors that will help our storm chances a lot more. Come up in 60 seconds here on Mississippi Live Weather. We're going to be looking at where Futurecast is placing those best storm chances, how we expect this to evolve for Friday, where that tornado threat is maximized, all that and more coming up here in 60 seconds from the Room to Room Weather Center as Mississippi Live Weather continues.
Frozen pipes can cause serious damage. That's why Absolute Restoration is giving away free faucet covers to our community while supplies last. Installing them is easy. Just slide the foam sleeve over your outdoor faucet and secure it snugly. Also remember to disconnect hoses, open cabinet doors under sinks, and let faucets drip during extreme cold. Call or text to check availability, and from our family to yours, please stay warm and protected.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
Locked in the clouds in Ackerman. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lovhawn. Thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. We have not been able to break out of this cloud cover really all day long in some spots. Ackerman, one of those locations. And you can see that measure of moisture, that dew point, a little bit higher there. Do appreciate the good folks at the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for sponsoring all these cameras around the area, bringing us the infrastructure for that. And appreciate the folks at Room to Room there for sponsoring us here in the Room to Room Weather Center as well. Pontotoc, it's a slightly different view where we have cleared out. Notice these numbers, again, mid-60s there at that spot, and then that dew point value is not as high up here in Pontotoc. Our skies are clearer at this instant as we kind of look back toward the south and west. Bring it back here to Mama Justice Doppler radar at this instant. Again, no real meaningful precipitation out there. Even if I kind of take this into sort of clear air mode and kind of look for everything, there's just not really a whole lot out there. And, the main factor we have this evening, again, is largely this the cloud cover and this dense fog advisory that you can see is in effect for parts of our area. I query Oktibbeha County there. This is in effect for tonight and into tomorrow because we expect that fog becomes fairly widespread. It's one of those signs that we have this moisture kind of coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, and you can almost kind of see the north end of where that front actually has more meaningful impact. So less likely northern portion of the area to obviously have that dense fog again overnight tonight. We owe this back again to the moisture values, our measure of moisture based on the same scale of the temperature, the dew point here. As we kind of widen things a little bit where you see kind of these blue colors, those are dew points that are in the 60s. When I'm looking for severe weather level dew points, we're looking for stuff like that. We're looking for the kind of purplish sort of colors in the 70s there, or at least something that's fairly close to that. That's not what we have in place now, but if you look back to the north and west, this big change you see here with all the drier air, that is the first of our cold fronts. And as that kind of nudges through, it will try to clear this out somewhat. But if it doesn't fully make it, say, all the way to the coast, and it won't, that means the moisture's here. It's just going to kind of return fairly quickly. And so we should have sufficient fuel for thunderstorms and possibly severe thunderstorms later this week. Friday is the time frame we're tracking. As we talked about off the top of the broadcast, we expect the potential for strong wind gusts, perhaps also isolated tornadoes out of this setup. I'd say the wind is certainly a lot more likely. It's more likely to get spin-up style tornadoes, but Friday is the time frame. We'll walk you through that here in a moment. As we get folks back for that second day of school, hallelujah. I know a lot of parents with me on that one there, and I know a lot of kids as well. Drop off tomorrow, very mild. We're about 50 degrees. Again, expecting that fog to be dense. A lot of locations, especially US 82 South, but there will be some spots up there. Chickasaw, Monroe County, maybe even as far north as Pontotoc County. We still have some of those patches of dense fog early in the morning. We'll be by lunch at 61 and 68 degrees by the last bell, and appreciate IMPC for sponsoring our school day forecast. So here is that front kind of coming into the area. Ahead of it, most of this is not meaningful. Most of this doesn't actually mean we're going to have more than really sprinkles on the windshield there as we progress through this evening. That is just, again, that more dense moisture, that cloud cover that just hasn't broken all day. This front does try to kind of break that up, but look just how little it really moves over the course between now and early morning on your Wednesday. As that kind of settles down here farther south, yeah, it does. We do see a couple sprinkles depicted there on Futurecast. But if we're talking how far this has moved by that point in time, maybe only about 130 miles. That's really not fast. And that is a sign, again, of the fact that this front is kind of running out of energy, and any cooler air from it is just very, very negligible. As you can see, we're still 47 in Senatobia, 46 in Holly Springs there for low temperatures on your Wednesday. About 49 New Albany, 47 degrees Boonville, and 51 degrees in the Tupelo area versus some mid-50s down here for Louisville, Macon, back toward Aliceville. So you can definitely see that north-south contrast associated with this front here. As we go throughout your Wednesday, that front again stalling, and that is one of our big weather stories. Let's widen this back out so you can kind of see that. High pressure is just not one that originated up in Canada, so it doesn't have a ton of cold air to work with. So this just slowly kind of stalls out down here in South Mississippi, and moisture will start to kind of override this and work its way northward as we progress into and through the forecast for your Wednesday night and then Thursday in particular. But I think still on the north side of this front, we mainly stay dry as we progress through your Wednesday, as you can see there. So good sign there, but again, the cloud cover, and it could take a while for that fog to dissipate, as of course we have that dense fog advisory around early in the day. So high temperatures on your Wednesday, we typically should be around 53 for this time of year. We're going to be 72 in Belzona, 72 in Greenwood. Record high is 75, so we're not quite that warm in Tupelo. We'll be 69 Tupelo and Amory, about 70 degrees there in Houston, and 72 in Grenada. So the warmer air, the more significant warm air, is still trying to ride northward. Now, not much of that, as you can see here, there into your Wednesday evening, as we are still dry, as kind of the components to our active weather setup continue to kind of take shape here, but we'll keep it cloudy and again dry into your early pre-dawn hours of Thursday morning, as we see some rainfall chances starting to show up back behind me there, back out into Arkansas, kind of the first little wave. We'll look wider on that here in a moment. Low temperatures early Thursday morning. You can see that moisture starting to returning, practically 60 degrees there in Greenville and Belzona. Yeah, we could be looking pretty close in some spots to a record high minimum temperature, meaning the low temperature in the morning as warm as we've seen. In some spots, that's a possibility later this week. But as you can see, normal's 34, so almost 20 degrees above that for a lot of spots. So the first players in this, and you can kind of start to see it, and this is somewhat attached to where our front previously was. So as we look at this here on Futurecast, what you'll notice is this big storm system back out on the plains. What you'll also notice is all these lines coming out of the Gulf of Mexico there. That is that moisture return. And you really could kind of connect the front. You might just barely see the front back there. Our lingering cold front from where we had it before, you can kind of attach those two there, but essentially what we have here is the warmer air that's kind of charging back, and that warmer and more moist air, as that works its way northward, starts setting that stage for our chances for severe weather on your Friday. So for Thursday, the risk for more active weather, maybe even some stronger thunderstorms, will be probably out there on the plains, closer to this upper level storm system. This is the first of 2 upper level waves we're going to watch come through. And so multiple lines of showers and thunderstorms that direction. We're kind of changing between our HRRR and our strike model there. As you can see, that HRRR model, a little more aggressive than strike is out there for locations on the plains. But the Thursday is basically kind of bringing moisture in with the most active weather still to our west at that point and time, still kind of setting that stage there. So mid 70s, as you can see, 73 degrees above my head there is the record on the books at Tupelo Regional Airport. We're forecasting 72. I mean, we just as easily could be 73. That wouldn't be a shock at all if we see even just a hint more sunshine there. 76 in Greenwood, 76 in Belzona, as well as Kosciuszko, 74 in Louisville, Macon. It will start to feel more sticky on Thursday. That's something you can't avoid. Then as we go into Thursday evening, Thursday night, that's when we start to see the first potential to have maybe a couple of rumbles. Those mainly out there into Arkansas, trying to move into the area. Moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and these showers should all remain just showers at this point here. We talked last night about some differences in our 2 main model projections and the timing in which this played out. Those differences have started to coalesce, and what we see earlier in the day is less likely to be impressive than what we see later. So you can see you go beyond the morning there, and as soon as we start engaging the heat of the day, showers and thunderstorms become more likely. Now, what is this at noontime? This is all probably just rainfall, as opposed to severe weather, something like that. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who's back at the broadcast facility there in the downtown Tupelo. And Gabe, as you make sure what's on the monitor behind you there is the right thing, I'm going to bring you in on the boxes here for a moment. Most projections in pretty good agreement on this, that this is all non-severe, correct?
Yes, and it's just going to be those prefrontal showers that develop, and honestly, seeing the magnitude of which they're going to be in the morning time, that's definitely a welcome sight, because that kind of eats up the energy that's already in place. But of course, then you get the main threat by the afternoon, and there's still a lot of energy down here in Hattiesburg, Jackson, Meridian, even Golden Triangle South. So with that energy still in play, and this forcing mechanism of that front makes the afternoon a little bit more interesting as we head into that severe weather threat.
Absolutely right. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor back there in the studio. We'll talk a lot more to Gabe about some of the components with this coming up at 6 o'clock here. The real question is, in my opinion, just kind of looking at this here, do we have a lesser quantity of storms than what we have here? Because there's only so much fuel to go around. We do definitely have a clean, open Gulf of Mexico. So the quicker we move this out, the more likely we are to see severe thunderstorms in the afternoon time period here. Now notice, again, that's what happens. Let's go down here toward Jackson, and I'll address why that's important for us here in North Mississippi. But when you look down here closer to Jackson, we have more of these kind of individual thunderstorms, and this is in that zone there where we did have, again, more heating, more sunshine. So the reason that's important is, say that we don't get this big flare-up of rainfall that this has, and that's definitely a possibility. That would then enhance the severe weather and the tornado threat with this. Now, what I see as far as storm mode is concerned, basically the form these storms are taking, these are more individual thunderstorms here than necessarily just a big old line of rain. So that's one of the things we're going to be watching even at 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock tonight. When do we see that congealing into the line? Because you could see here, looking at 6 p.m., we start to see a little bit more of that at that point in time. But if I just kind of draw a line on here, we can go wider, and maybe even on the wider shot, it's a little more obvious than this. You can definitely see that there is a change right about here, right? Between what's below that and what's above that. This is all individual storms with kind of breaks in between. This is just a big mess of rainfall. What that means is somewhere we're going to have a cutoff between less impressive and more impressive severe weather chances, assuming our strike model. Again, this is the only model that we really have that can model this far out and give us kind of an idea of what thunderstorms, things like that looks like. That is at least saying that somewhere between probably Jackson and Starkville, there's going to be a cutoff where we have a much more significant chance to maybe see a brief tornado. So what is a significant chance? We're not talking a significant chance of tornadoes, but it's greater to the south, and then you get farther north and it's just not as likely. So up here closer to the Tennessee state line, confidence remains very low as far as that's concerned. Not an impossibility, something that we'll certainly be watching very closely, and then those chances do continue into the evening. So here's our kind of severe threats, and we'll go back and look a little bit more at that evening threat here in just a moment. But looking at our severe threats here, confidence, I would say, is pretty low as far as tornadoes are concerned. As you saw, the individual thunderstorms more central Mississippi southward. When we get those individual thunderstorms by themselves, that's when we're a lot more likely to see tornadoes. So again, not a high confidence level on the tornadoes, but not an impossibility to see a brief spin-up tornado, even if it's just a line of wind moving in. I'd say wind gusts, the main factor we're looking at on this here. Hail threat, not terribly impressive. Because you saw so much rainfall as early as we had it, we've had to increase the flash flooding threat on this just a little bit more. But that's the reason why, as we're kind of looking at this. And one thing I would mention before we go any further here, we need to strongly consider picking up WTVA's weather call, Next Gen. It is something that will call you if, again, what we do is important. But the most important thing, and I talked to a group of kids today, we'll hopefully have that video coming up at 6 o'clock here of our school talk in the Tupelo area today. But one of the things we talked about is there's only two things that you and I at home can do to help ourselves as far as active weather and severe weather is concerned. Number one is know when we need to go, and number two is have a place to go. So the number one thing, know when you need to go. That's where weather call comes in. That's what this is about here. Lets you know, it calls you if there's severe thunderstorms, tornado warnings, things of that nature, and lets you know, hey, now is the time. And now here in advance is the time where we want to think strongly about how we kind of build our armor in this situation. The Mississippi Live Weather app, for those of you on social media watching us on Facebook, highly recommend you download the app. It's the easiest way to find out when we're live and keep you ahead. The alerts are very, very good on it. As you can see here below me, again, that is on our list when we're starting to build the layers of armor, but I put weather call at the top because weather calls are phone calls are disruptive, and make sure that we know that something else is potentially coming our way. But as we're preparing before and we're thinking ahead on this, we also want to make sure that, when we're thinking ahead toward Friday, that we're keeping phones charged, that we have the hard-soled shoes ready, that we have important documents together, and that we know where our safe place is going to be. We think about that in advance so that we can plan out where that safe place eventually will be. And this is a graphic we show all the time, but I think we need to show again. When we're kind of identifying safe places, we want to make sure we find a sturdy structure, one that has a windowless room in it, but has multiple walls between you and the outside, and have blankets, pillows, a helmet, and all that sort of stuff ready. This is Friday that we're looking at. Again, timing on this, but we want to be thinking ahead as much as we can to make sure that we know everything we need to know. And speaking of thinking ahead, our meteorologist Maggie McCauley will have updates on this tomorrow morning starting at 6:30 a.m. She's on every day during the week, 6:30, 7:30 a.m. She'll get you ready to, again, heading back to school as we go throughout the week. She's great at that, on the daily stuff, but she'll have updates on these risk areas and everything coming up at 6:30 in the morning on Mississippi Live Weather Today, and the latest look at where that Futurecast is placing those individual thunderstorms attempting to spin up. You can see our broadcasts 5, 6, and 10 every day here from the Room to Room Weather Center. We appreciate everyone for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. I promise I didn't forget to give you the 7-day forecast here, but I didn't give it a second ago. Here's your 7-day forecast. I'm usually a little quicker to this, and I apologize for that. I think we're still working out how best to structure these shows, but that 7-day forecast easily available in 24/7 channels, so I don't, harp on it maybe as much as we should. But we're up 70% on that rain coverage there on Friday, 70 degrees that temperature. I mean, we're close-ish to a record high as we look toward Thursday and Friday. Behind the system, we sweep the moisture out, some showers possible on Saturday, and this kind of sweeping on out of here as we go for Sunday and the Monday, and in the extended forecast, we're looking at 40s there into the first part of next week, a sign that we've really kind of moved a lot of the moisture right on out of here. But obviously Friday is a day that we're watching very, very closely. Now Thursday is a day that Ole Miss fans are watching extremely closely. Do you have it ready behind the scenes there, Gabe? We're going to do a little chat that I had with our Will Kohlmeyer about the Ole Miss Rebels as they took off today to the desert to get ready for their big playoff game. Okay, 2 days to go until the big matchup. We know everybody is excited, at least Ole Miss fans, just crazed almost about this. Are Will Kohlmeyer joining us as the playoffs continue?
Yeah, they do. And yes, it's at an all-time high when it comes to the fever, the pitch of these Ole Miss fans. And I think it's kind of catching nationally as well, because this Ole Miss team has been facing a lot of adversity with the whole Lane Kiffin drama. Everybody knows all about that. There is good news, though. The team left today for Phoenix, and Charlie Weiss is going to be the offensive coordinator, as well as the running backs coach Kevin Smith will be a part of it. And there you see some of the send-off at Ole Miss today. Huge turnout, and you can see why, though, Matt. This team is one win away from winning a national, playing for a national championship, and 2 from winning a national championship, which is just crazy to think about. And those Ole Miss fans, they are feeling it, and they're trying to send that positive karma to that Ole Miss football team.
And that was the hope at the beginning of the season. So many times Mississippi sports fans hear this hype and there's nothing behind it. There's 4 teams left, and Ole Miss is one of them. Certainly there's a lot it's going to take to get past these last 2 games. What are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you what, with Miami and that defense, Mario Cristobal has got himself quite a defense there at Miami, extremely stingy, giving up less than 2 touchdowns a game. So Trinidad Shambliss, though, I don't think Miami has faced a quarterback, especially as hot as Trinidad Shambliss is right now. He is just an absolute Houdini, getting away from defenders. And they've got 2 really good defensive linemen, Bain and at one defensive end, and then one wears number 3, one wears number 4. Mesidor is the other. But the key is, with Trinidad Shambliss, they better not go in so hard on the edge, where Trinidad, all he has to do is move up in the pocket. He can either scramble for maybe 6-7 yards, take a slide, and which is a positive for the offense, or he can move up and he can find one of his talented receivers. They are full of terrific receivers, and they make a 7-8 yard catch. They add another 15 yards, and all of a sudden it's a 23-yard pickup. So Miami has to be careful. And then on the flip side, Matt, is Miami going to try to be like a ball control on offense? Run the ball a bunch and keep Trinidad and that Ole Miss offense on the sidelines? We'll have to wait and see. But I'm telling you one thing, they better, if they're running the clock and they're trying to shorten the game, they better get some points on those drives, because we have seen Ole Miss can score, and they can score in a hurry.
In a big, big hurry, and hopefully the clock operator works a little better off this time around.
I'll tell you what, there was all kinds of some drama. But, of course, Ole Miss has been used to all the drama, so they've fought through some adversity. I think another big key for Ole Miss, if it comes down to a kicking game, if it's close, I got to give them the edge. How wonderful was Canero last week? A 55 and a 56-yard field goal, not to mention his field goal at the end of the game to win it for Ole Miss. So I'd have to give Ole Miss an edge. If it is a close game and you're looking for who's going to win the kicking game, I'd lean toward Ole Miss.
Absolutely. That's our Will Kohlmeyer joining us. Thank you so much, and excited to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, cannot wait. Thursday night, can't get here soon enough.
So it's our Will Kohlmeyer a little earlier on today, as we were talking about, again, the big Ole Miss game coming up on Thursday. So if you missed the headline, severe weather chances for Friday, level 2 out of 5. Every time we show this risk, we're talking about the confidence level and the number of reports here. And again, it's possible to see a higher upgrade to this based on what I'm looking at this point here. I still have some questions, thankfully, about storm mode and how this plays out, but we need to be thinking ahead and preparing ahead in case Friday is one of those days. As I mentioned a minute ago here, our next broadcast is going to be coming up at 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., we're going to be looking at the fuel related to this and some of the other components. I think we can, this far out, look at some of the rotation tracks in our extended model there as well. We will kind of talk a little bit about how that could all play a factor and the timing related to that. And Gabe will also have a special update as well. Gabe, give me your title here on that. What are you doing?
So it's going to be a model matchup comparing the Euro and the GFS and how that translates into our Friday severe weather threat.
Okay, that and more coming up here on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. We'll see you then.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?